Hello, today we're presenting tariffs and their ripple effect, focusing on their impact on consumers, businesses, and the global economy. I'm Helen.
And I am Harriet.
Here's our table of contents. We'll begin with some basic concept and explore tariffs' effect on consumers, businesses, and the global economy, ending with a brief conclusion. Let's start with the basics. What are tariffs? Tariffs are taxes on imported goods, typically used to protect domestic industries, but their impact goes beyond prices. They influence trade patterns, production, international relations, and even inequality. We'll also touch on the US-China trade war, a real-world example of how tariffs can affect economies on a large scale. One of the clearest effects is on consumers. Tariffs raise the price of imports, which often get passed to consumers. This reduces consumer surplus as shown in the graph, and can especially hurt low-income households due to tariffs being regressive. With less competition, domestic producers may also have less incentive to innovate or maintain quality. A key example is the US-China trade war. Tariffs imposed in 2018 raised prices across many goods. Research shows US consumers lost around $51 billion in welfare, or 0.27% of GDP, while Amity et al. In 2019 found that both intermediate and final goods became more expensive, without boosting domestic productivity. Now, turning to businesses. In short term, tariffs may help domestic firms by limiting foreign competition, but long term, they raise costs for companies relying on imported materials and disrupt global supply chains. The US-China trade war caused major disruptions, as highlighted by Chen in 2024, leading companies to restructure or shift production overseas. Tariffs also affect firms unevenly. Weaker ones may still fail, and exporters often face retaliatory tariffs. Small and medium-sized enterprises in particular struggle more than larger firms. So while tariffs might offer short-term protection, their border effects, especially over time, can be costly and uneven for businesses.
At a global level, tariffs can have major macroeconomic consequences. The US-China trade war alone is estimated to have caused a $450 billion global GDP loss. The disruption in global trade flows reduced investment and confidence across continents. Moreover, repeated unilateral tariffs measures can threaten global trade institutions such as World Trade Organization, which rely on rule-based systems. In developing countries, tariffs play a very different role. They are often a key source of government revenue, funding essential services such as healthcare and education. In such contexts, sudden tariff reduction, for example, AFCFTA, can undermine fiscal stability. Without proper tax reform, government may struggle to replace this loss in income. So while trade liberalization brings opportunities, it can also bring fiscal risks. Tariffs also have distributional effects. Some region and group benefit while others loss. For example, urban industrial regions may gain jobs and investment, while rural or import-dependent regions see higher costs of living and job losses. It is shown that tariffs can exacerbate income and regional inequality, particularly where regions differ their industrial structure, as it is often like a regressive tax. These are some graphs of the trade war between US and China in 2018, and it is quite obvious that the rise in tariffs did effectively reduce China's market share of import in the US market. As we can see on the second graph, there is a large decline after 2018. To conclude with, tariffs may appear to support domestic industries, but they could also bring significant side effects, such as higher consumer prices, distorted business incentives, global trade disruptions, and growing inequalities. Instead of resorting to blunt tools such as tariffs, policymakers should focus on more smarter and sustainable strategies. For example, EU's Green Deal, which uses green subsidies to foster innovations without raising consumer prices or triggering trade retaliation. This can enhance the competitiveness, supporting workers, and preserve global cooperation as well. These are all citations and resources that we used. Thanks for our listening.